Allison here, the Bored Housewife. I am so excited for you to be joining me again for another week. These episodes are really starting to march along, and I feel like I'm starting to get into my groove a little bit. This week, I am talking about my crazy Alabama neighbors. And there's a little twist on the story, so you're going to want to watch till the end to hear about that. But I don't really know what my issue is. I feel like I just have kind of a bad track record with getting good neighbors. And maybe that's a lot of people. And people don't complain the way that I complain about it. But yeah, I was like, in New York City, I had this one neighbor that was really bad. And he lived just one floor below us. And he was a drug dealer. He was like in high school. His dad worked like crazy hours. It was just him and his dad. And like people would break into our front door because like in New York City, when you live in the apartment buildings, usually that front door that you come in, you have to have a key for that door for like security reasons. And then like you have a key for your apartment. Well, people would constantly break the handle on that door so that they could get in. And then they would proceed to just bang on this kid's door because he wouldn't pay people back or something. I don't know what his deal was. And then he would like have all these crazy parties all the time. My roommate, his window looked out over the street. One night, some guy was trying to get the kids' attention. There was a bar downstairs, so they had like taken their bottles out for the night. And this guy like got into the bar's garbage and was like throwing bottles at the window, and we're just like, what the hell? And we called the police, and of course they like took them forever to come, if they even did come. We're not really sure, but it's just like, oh my god, this kid's so crazy. So then like the craziest part of all of it, and then shortly after this I moved out for other reasons, but he had this really crazy party, and I guess somebody got stabbed on the sidewalk outside of our apartment building after the party. And so this detective showed up, and two detectives showed up, and I answer the door, and I'm like, hello. And, I'm still in college, so I'm like around the age that this kid is. And I also have like a super young voice, and they're like, is your dad home? And I was like, I don't have a dad. And they were like, is this not so-and-so's residence? And I was like, oh, you want to talk to the kid downstairs? I'm like, yeah, he's bad news. You're going to want to talk to him. And she was like, oh, sorry. And then she explained to me that there was like a stabbing and asked if I knew anything about it. And I was like, no, I had no idea. But I'm like, it doesn't surprise me. That kid has bad news people coming here all the time. So anyways, that's just one of my like weird stories of my existence. But yeah, these people might rival that guy. I'm not sure. So you'll have to sit back and relax, guys, and let's get going on our show. Grab your tequila sunrise or beverage of choice, and cheers. Let's get to it. So first things first is the cocktail of the hour. We have here a tequila sunrise. Very refreshing. I'm going to put my little garnish in there just so it doesn't hit my face. But I tried to layer it. If you guys saw the cocktail tutorial last week or on Friday, I tried to layer it and it did not layer. It's supposed to look like red on the bottom and then like a little gradual mixing and then orange juice on top. And it just looks like it's mixed. So, what do you do? But anyways, I did a half ounce of grenadine. I did 3 ounces of tequila. And I always try to find like 100% agave tequila. I'm not the biggest tequila fan. Like, not that I dislike it. because I love all spirits. But I just isn't something that I usually like go for on a regular basis. I just try to look for 100% agave because you won't get as hungover the next day when you use the cheaper shit. That's when, you get the bad hangover and, you're sitting next to the toilet praying to God, please stop. Please stop the pain. That's never been me. Anyways, so yeah, and then orange juice. So it's a nice little drink. It's very good for the summer, and I just thought it would be kind of fun for today. So cheers, guys. Also, next week I have a little friend who's going to start helping me out with the cocktail tutorials. So I'll be very interested what you guys think of her and how she does. So definitely stay tuned for that. So I'm not a person who likes to make friends with their neighbors. Like being friendly, sure, but like I don't want to be like, hey, neighbors, let's hang out and do barbecues and, I don't know what, like, block parties, like, I'm not really that type of person, and this really started when I moved to New York, because, like, before then, I was friends, like, as a kid growing up, I was friends with the girls next door, like, when we moved, again, the girls that lived across the street we were friends with, like, that was always, like, it's a very Midwest thing. But then living in New York, it's just like people are just so much sketchier, so you kind of like stay guarded. And I really was okay with it. It's like, you're always on the go too, so you don't like necessarily have time to make chit chat with your neighbors every day. With that being said, I didn't try to, like, I wasn't rude. I didn't go out of my way to be rude or anything like that, but it wasn't like, hey, let's become best friends, So I figured, though, moving down here to the south, that I'm like, these neighbors are going to try to talk to us when we move in. And sure enough, we're not there. Like, we had just moved in for a few days, and, well, when they give these ladies different names, they are somehow related. I'm not really sure, but they're somehow related. So the one that lives on our right side, we're going to call her Barb. Barb has these dogs everywhere, and they annoy the shit out of me. And one is named Lucky, and the other one is Sierra. And then they have like a few other ones too. They have this one little Chihuahua that looks like it's a freaking zombie dog. I'm like, how are you not dead? Like, you look like he's just like all the time. It's this like really gross tail. I feel really bad for it, but he's just annoying, and he just like prances around out into the street. Anyways, I'm just like, I don't know how this dog is alive. But you have Lucky, who's this black dog, and he's like I don't know, has like a bulldog mix to him or something. He's like a bigger dog, but his face, he's got like a smushed face. So I don't know what kind of dogs those are, but he is an arrogant motherfucker. And excuse my language, but I cannot stand this dog. He's so smug, and he likes to run into our yard and poop in it. So if I catch him, I'm like, hey, and I'll like bang on the windows and stuff, and he'll like look at me, and then he'll be like, and we have this stare down, and then sometimes he just like kicks his feet underneath himself, and it's like, oh, you little shit. And then other times, like, I'll run out, and he'll be like, and he'll get all smug, and he'll go, and he like takes off running. I'm like, yeah, you stay out of here, you little shit. I'm like, you smug bastard, I hate you. So that's Lucky. And then Sierra, she's really sweet. She's very nice. She's white, and she's got like a little black eye, and she's so cute. And she likes to follow us around, and she'll come over, but I've just seen her with too many dead rodents in her mouth that I'm like, Sierra, keep your distance, girl. Or like, I'll like just kind of like scratch the top of her head because she's really sweet. But then I'm like, go inside, and I'm like, like, I don't want to get like fleas or anything. Like, these dogs are wild dogs. So anyways, there's that. So the day that we were introduced to Barb, she was telling us about the dogs, and they're basically a sanctuary for you know, homeless dogs. And we're like, great, and they don't do anything to like, they just feed the dogs. They don't do anything to like actually help them otherwise. I don't think the dogs live inside. It's just like, I'm like, you're not actually helping them, but okay. And then she proceeds to tell us about Sharon. We'll call her Sharon, who lives on the left side of us. So we're directly in between these two, okay? She's like, yeah, Sharon has her bit of issues, and she's given us the scoop. They're somehow related, and Sharon is basically lives on welfare, and her parents just take care of her and this whole thing. And they buy her a car, and or mom and sister take care of her, whatever. And me and Cliff are just like, okay, we did not need to know any of this information, right? So we're like, okay, nice to meet you. We'll see you around. And so that was just kind of that. Well, Barb, we're pretty sure, has like some type of Alzheimer's or dementia. So she's another story altogether. She's not an issue at all, per se, other than like thinking she's helping dogs when she's not. And they have a bunch of cats too. But it's just like I think she's fed us information and we're not realizing that she's sick, I took it for face value. So I had like this really crazy perspective of everybody in the neighborhood. And now I'm kind of figuring out that, oh, it's probably just because she has Alzheimer's or, dementia or something. But I'm pretty sure she's right about So as we're living here, oh, fuck. I said her name again. I always do that. Okay. So Barb, we're pretty sure she was right about Sharon because ever since we moved here, Sharon's house is like a freaking fast food window. Like, people are coming and going all the time. And it's super annoying because they drive up her driveway and then they honk their horn. And then she's like, give me a minute. Not even kidding you. Oh, hold on. I'll be right out there, okay? Like, can you understand me? I can understand me. That's what she freaking sounds like, okay? And I'm just like, what is she going out there? And she's a hoarder. She just collects all of these things. She has this like old food truck outside in her driveway. And right when COVID happened, all of a sudden she was out there one day like power washing it. And I'm like, what does she think is she gonna do with this? And then like we heard her say to somebody like, yeah, I need some money, so I'm gonna have to get this thing cleaned up so I can, sell it off. And we're just like, okay. And she was out there for like maybe a half hour and like got like one area of it power washed off, like on the bottom of one side, and then has not touched it since. So she's just wild. Like, she gets all this stuff. She had this car that was working when we first moved here, and then it stopped working. So she had some guys out there trying to help her fix it. They couldn't fix it. They would work on it all hours of the night. Can you guess where I'm going with this story? And so now she just uses it to hoard more shit. So she has her entire house, okay? And then she has like this big like trailer behind her house, which we're pretty sure is just full of shit. And now she has the peanut truck, and now she also has her car. And you can see in the windows, it's just full of crap. Stuffed to the max, just full of crap. And like she'll come home and she'll have like random stuff outside down like near her driveway, like not under her like her porch, which she does have shit under her porch too, but like it's not protected from the weather at all. And she'll leave it there for days. And it's like clothes and like toys. It could be electronics. Like it could be absolutely anything and everything. And it just sits there. And then all of a sudden it'll disappear. And it's like, what did she do with it? Like, why did you leave it out in the rain? Like, why did you, like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And this is why. So we are like really pretty sure that she is some sort of drug dealer. She has people who are crackheads act like crackheads around the house all the time. I call it the flavor of the month. She usually has a guy that will come around for like a week or two, sometimes a month, and he'll be there almost every day doing favors for her. Mowing her lawn, washing her car. Who knows what they're doing on the inside? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just really weird. And then constantly, like I said, like, there are different cars pulling up into the driveway all the time. And you're just like, what the fuck? And so we even told like a police officer friend of ours, and he was like, well, see if you can get some license plates and like keep an eye on it for us. And I'm like, isn't this your job as a police officer? Like, I'm pretty sure she has an operation out of this thing, but okay. So, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, whatever. If the police don't care, then whatever. So, I just like, we've kind of just accepted it because they tend to keep to themselves. Like, they're not violent, like, other than having to see the garbage and the annoyance, to hear them trying to mow their lawn at like 8:30 at night. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, it's so weird. It's like that tweak, like they get on a high and it's like, gotta clean everything, da da da. And then it's like, as soon as that high falls off, it's like, oh, okay. Like, and they never come back to it again. It's like, it's so weird. And it's obvious drug behavior. Like, so you just know that weird stuff's going on. So I was just like, okay, whatever. Until, I don't know if it was last year or like at the end of the summer or something. This dog was around for like a while, at least a year, if not longer. She gets this pit bull mix, and I don't know what else was in the pit bull. I am not against pit bulls. I've lived with one. My roommate in California had one. And I actually really liked her because she was very protective of all of us girls that lived in the house. So Cliff almost actually, luckily, I don't know if my roommate was up or if she just remembered Cliff, but Cliff went up to go to the bathroom, and like in the hallway, this dog is like, like coming at him. And he's like, oh shit, she is going to rip my leg off. And luckily she stopped and remembered Cliff. So she did her job. And sometimes I'd be home by myself, and I lived kind of in like a sketchier area. So it was nice to know that she was there to like handle shit, So anyways, I'm not against pit bulls at all. But like, prior to this lady getting this dog, so that other dog, Lucky, that I told you about, he got into it with like a full bred pit bull that lives a few houses down in my backyard. So the backyard of my house is like Tennessee Valley land, okay? And it's just like a jungle, pretty much. And I hear all this commotion, and I hear people hollering and stuff. So I opened my door, and all these people, luckily their owners were home. All these people were like running around like crazy. And Lucky got into it. The dog's name, I think, was Petey. And, what do you do? Like, they were having a full-on scary dog fight in the backyard. And I was just like, do I call the cops right now? Like, I don't, like, this is on my property. Like, this is scary. Like, I don't want any of this coming back to me, And the owners are trying to get the dogs off of each other, and like the dogs would not let up. Neither one of them had collars. They didn't even, the Barb next door, she didn't even have a leash for Lucky. Some man handed her his belt so that she could drag her dog back, because they pretty much just had to wait for the dogs to get totally exhausted. Neither dog could walk home. That's how intense it was. And it was so fucking scary. And so I was like pissed about that, right? But like, these dogs are just kind of unpredictable sometimes. And so luckily we don't have children. If I had kids, I would be like, nope, not dealing with this. Either those dogs are all going to be dead or we're moving. And, I don't mean to be like that, but it's just like, dogs, like, I'm a huge animal lover, but like when it comes to dogs having those sorts of behaviors and they're just running wild, like we can't live here anymore if I had kids. And even in myself, like there are times where it's just like, a little nerve wracking. Like maybe one day Lucky turns around and he's like, I've had it with you, bitch. And he comes at me, like hopefully not. But anyways, so she gets this new dog and it's a pit bull mix and he is so aggressive. And at the beginning, he's just a puppy and he's super cute too. He was a very cute dog. And he'd bark at everything, whatever. And I'm just like, this is not good. Like, this is just not a good scenario. So, dog gets bigger, gets more aggressive. Other dogs are now terrified of him. Lucky barely even comes to my yard anymore because I'm in the middle. Lucky and Sierra kind of hang off over here. Every once in a while, Sierra would go and play with this dog. But I think this dog kind of looked at her as like a little mother or something like that. Like, I'm not really sure. They would play every once in a while, but like Lucky never would cross the yard. And then this other pit bull never saw that other pit bull again. And so I'm just like, this isn't good. And then I started realizing, like, we have a lawn service that comes. When the lawn service would come, he would try to attack the lawn guys. And he would just stand there and bark and bark and bark and bark and bark. And I'm just like, I am so sorry. I don't know what to do because and I sent Cliff over there to like talk to her. And so Cliff did go over there one day and was like, hey, like your dog. And she just says, that's not my dog. And we're like, well, he's at your house. Yeah, he just followed me home, but he's not my dog. And we're just like, okay. So I don't know how many times like he'd be out there yelling or barking and stuff, and I'd see her outside, and I would just start screaming like, "Come get your fucking dog!" And she'd be like, "It's not my dog." And then she would like get in her car and be like, "Come on, dog!" And then like drive away, and the dog would like follow her. And she has like several family members in this area that we all live in. So, like, the dog would just follow her to, like, one of her family members' houses. And I'm just like, how can you say this isn't your dog? Like, you're feeding him. He lives at your house. So then I started calling animal control. And I told her, I'm like, if you don't get him on a leash, I'm going to call animal control. And she's like, go ahead, call him. He's not my dog. I'm just like... So I'm like... Okay. So I call animal control. Well, she knows when I'm calling because she hears me out there getting upset and the dog's provoking people. Or like one day the dog chased Cliff up onto our porch. Now, at that point, he'd only kind of like stayed in his yard a little bit, but now he's breaching yards. And now he thinks our yard is his yard as well. And I'm like, no, this is not okay. So, he chased Cliff up on to the porch, and so I just started calling animal control. But every time I call them, they're like, all right, we'll come by and we'll put a note on her door if she's not home or whatever. And it's like she always knew. It's like she would take off with the dog, so like they weren't there to actually like reprimand her. And then even though there is a leash law in like our city limits where you're supposed to keep your dog on a leash, like they don't actually enforce it. Like I don't know if you get fined. Like I don't think anything happens to you. And even if you did, like she's one of those people that doesn't give a shit. She's like, whatever, I don't have anything anyways, like fine me bitches, And so it's just like, it was getting so frustrating. So I will tell this one kind of funny part of it though. So there was this possum that was dead in our backyard, and we're not sure how it died, but it just, one day I was like, what is that out there? And I'm like, oh, it's a dead possum. So I told Cliff, I'm like, you need to like go and get rid of that because it's going to start stinking. And he was like, something will come along and eat it. So I'm like, okay, well, one morning we wake up and one of the dogs that actually lives inside of the house over at Barb's house was down there rolling around. The dead possum. And Cliff and I were so happy because we are just so annoyed with these people. And we're like, yeah, get in there. So, like, we probably stood there for, like, an hour watching this dog. And he was, like, trying to, like, bring the possum back home. And I was like, I hope he brings it into her house so bad. And because like part of it was eaten. And so he was like trying like a fat kid, like, who can't get all of the cake in his mouth. Like he kept trying to like pick up like different pieces, and like one piece would fall out and he'd kind of like walk away, and then he'd be like, oh wait, like trying to get it all in his mouth. And it was so gross, and we're just laughing, and we're like, this is too bad that's not that like asshole dog next door, because man, I love to see that. Well, right about as we say that, in comes that dog, like, roar, 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 like, this is my possum. And so then that dog's like, ah, and he like runs off. And then that dog also is like rolling in it, peeing on it, eating it. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy that we just let that possum stay there. And yeah, so that was kind of fun for us. But yeah, so anyways, it's starting to get serious with this dog, and the city's not doing anything about it. And so we're like, Cliff's basically like, I'm just gonna shoot the dog if it comes near one of us, like, because like it's on our property, it's violent, like she's just gonna have to figure it out. And I realized too, she's saying that it's not her dog, so that if it does bite one of us, she won't be liable. She can say, well, I've told them that it's not my dog this whole time. So I'm like, I don't want you to hurt the dog. I just need this dog to go away. It's ruining our lives. So one day Cliff and I were like on a walk, and we purposely went this longer way home to avoid the dog, because even if we were walking in the neighborhood, the dog would see us and like charge and then just like get really close and bark. I mean, it's scary, guys, when you have a dog like that does that, because it's just like, it's a built dog. And
I'm not sure I understand.
Siri, I'm not talking to you. Anyways, so then I was pissed, and I saw she was outside and she had some people there with her, and I just started going off on this lady, because we tried to be nice. We tried to talk nice to her and be like, hey, your dog's an issue, and she just keeps giving us the same crap. So this dog's in our yard during broad daylight when we're walking home, and she sees us, and I'm like, you need to get your fucking dog. This is fucking ridiculous. I shouldn't have, just going off on her. And she's just like, and the guys that were there, I don't know who they were, but you could tell they were like, who is this bitch? And I'm just like, I won't stop. And my husband's like, stop, and I'm like, no, I'm not stopping. She needs to know that this is not okay. Like, she's going to get crazy bitch. If you're going to be a crazy bitch, I'm going to be a crazy bitch. So that happened. Well, then maybe a month or so later, we sometimes like to go to this bar that's not too far from our house. And that way, if we both get a little too intoxicated, then we can walk home and it's not a big deal. So we're walking home, and we are like almost to our house, and this dog out of nowhere comes flying across the yard. Well, luckily Cliff had like a can in his hand, and so he threw it at the dog just to scare it, and luckily it did work. The dog like diverted away. Well, I start freaking out. And because I was like, oh my God, today's the day the dog's going to bite one of us. Like, I thought for sure he was going to bite us. And we're not even anywhere near his house, right? So I get super crazy. I go inside. I'm crying. I'm upset. I calm down, and I'm like, you know what? And we're a little intoxicated too, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go call this bitch out. So it's probably like midnight, 1 a.m. I go down outside, and I go just straight to our property line, and I'm like, hey, bitch, come outside. And Cliff is like, inside, I think he was calling the cops, because he's like, I've had enough of this. So I'm like, hey, bitch. Then I see this, like, very dark shadow sitting on the front porch, and I see his cigarette glow. And I'm like, where's the bitch at? Where's it at? And he was like, I'm like, she needs to fucking take care of her dog. Like, I'm so fucking tired of this. And he was like, this is my house, you know? And I'm like, where's she at? Tell her to come out here. I want to talk to her. And I am just wild. And then Cliff comes out, and I thought for sure he was going to yell at me. But then he was like, yeah, get off the steps. Come talk to us. And the guy's like, it's not my dog. It's not my house. And I was like, I don't give a shit. Someone needs to be held responsible for this. This is so crazy. Like, we're being terrorized in our neighborhood. Like, it's freaking Cujo is who he was. He just was freaking Cujo. It was terrifying. And also, too, like, you couldn't drive. Like, if he caught you driving, he would get up. Like, you guys have no idea how much of a saint I am. I know I sound super crazy, but do you know how many opportunities I had to just run this dog over and I didn't because I was like, no, that's wrong. But for real, this dog was just Cujo, like, terrorizing the neighborhood. He needed to be, like, and it's her fault. And then that's the thing that pissed me off the most. Like, you made this dog this way because you did not train it. You allowed it to be aggressive because you have some drug scenario over there, so you wanted protection. I'm guaranteeing that's what the scenario was. Like, you made this dog this way, and that is so not fair because now he's just a threat, and he's never going to change. Like, he's never going to get out of this unless somebody who's like a great trainer can figure it out. But it's just like, you're putting everybody in harm's way, and you're putting your dog too, because like I would try to take off. Like, there was this one kind of stop sign or like turn that you would go up, and he'd sometimes be there and he would get up under your tires, and I'm just like going back and forth. And then if I saw someone outside, I'd yell out, I'd roll down the window, I'd yell at him, like, get this dog under control. He's gonna hurt somebody. He's gonna cause a car accident. Or he's gonna end up just getting run over. Like, one of those scenarios is gonna happen. So, anyways, she just was so disrespectful and so rude, and just like, anyways, and then I got super paranoid. So I got these little alarms put on our door so that if anybody opened the door, we would hear the alarm, because I was losing sleep, because I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have poked the bear that way. Like, they're crackheads over there. I'm home alone a lot. Like, even at night, like, I just was not sleeping because I was like, are they going to try to break into our house or something and hurt us for the way that I've been towards her? Because I realized that I'm crazy, but it's just like, when you deal with something like that on a regular basis and it interrupts so many aspects of your life, like, we couldn't have friends over because we were worried about the dog. Like, we couldn't walk home from the bar because we were worried about the dog. Like, there was just like, I can't even walk around my neighborhood because I'm worried about the dog chasing me. Like, that really affects you mentally, and you start to lose it. So I was just like, oh my God. And at this point too, we were so far in that, like, moving, I mean, we could have moved, but it was like, there's not a lot of different rentals and stuff in this area. So it's like, moving even at this point really isn't an option. So it's just like, what do you do? So yeah, so I like got really kind of paranoid. And then, so we got these little alarm things, so at least they'll make a loud noise if someone broke into the house. And I was like thinking about it though, and I'm like, since then I've realized if I sit out on my porch and she sees me, she will not make eye contact. The other neighbors next door, I'm sure they heard the commotion, if not heard it from her. They also keep their distance. And I realized, I'm like, this whole time I'm thinking that they're the crazy neighbors. I'm actually a crazy neighbor. Because also, I forgot to tell you this, before this other dog came in the picture, those other dogs that just like would go free, we had this like plastic trash bin for our house, and it would sit up near the road. And these dogs would knock it over and just get into the garbage. And they did it, the last time they did it was at Thanksgiving. And so my family can tell you, when I would notice it, because garbage would just be strewn all over our yard and the driveway, the road. It'd just be disgusting. So I'd have to go out there, put on rubber gloves, pick the damn shit up, put it back, and it was just like so infuriating. And so I ended up getting a solution. I just got a metal trash bin and it totally worked. Like those old fashioned, like Oscar the Grouch trash bins with the lid. I got one of those and they've never gotten into our garbage since. So, luckily that solution was cheap and easy to fix. But the last time it happened, the dogs were barking as I was like walking to go pick up the trash. And I was like, shut the fuck up! So I'm walking out of my yard and I'm like, this motherfucking shit is so fucking stupid. And I'm just like putting the trash in the bag, and I can't be a normal person in those scenarios because I just get so mad and I'm just so emotional sometimes, and it's just like I just need to get it out. And I really don't care what my neighbors think of me. I'm like, I am out of here in 3 years. They can think I'm the crazy one, right? And so I realized that I am the crazy neighbor.
I don't know how to respond to
God damn it, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Anyways, I realized that I am the crazy neighbor. And so at first I was like, oh, that might be a problem. But I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with it, because if I act that way willingly on my own, now if someone broke in my house, I don't know how I would act. I'd be probably really scared and frightened. And if my Marine wasn't here, then I don't know what the hell I would do. But I'm going to guess they probably think I'd go apeshit on them. If I go to their houses and yell at their dogs and all these things, then I would probably go apeshit on them in my own house, right? Probably not. I'd probably be so scared, but yeah. So, anyways, gonna wrap it up. Moral of the story, don't mess with me. I'm a crazy person. You don't live in New York City for 7 years without getting a little edge on you. So, I don't know why I'm so crazy and all of that, but I will say, if you're having an issue with a neighbor, because we all have issues with neighbors at some point or another, right? Just start acting like the crazy one. Just go outside yelling for no reason. They're going to be like, what is she doing? And you do it every once in a while, and then you act super sweet and nice, and it's like really throws people off, and they don't really know what to do with themselves. Like, okay, we live next door to a psycho. It's like, yeah, you do. Not really, but maybe. I don't know. I just think that, like, people really push you to your limits sometimes, and it sucks when you live in an area and it's like, we are lucky that we're renting this and that we get to leave soon, and that's what's been in my mind this whole time. Like, this isn't forever, but, like, God, like, our other neighbors across the street, they were, like, a retired couple, and they just sold their house, and I just feel so bad for whoever bought the house, because I'm like, you have no idea what you're moving into. And so it sucks, and I'm just like, okay, how do you do that? Like, I'm gonna have to do like a little bit of recon before I move. Like, we finally decide to buy a house, because like, I don't need my neighbors to be overly friendly. I just need them to be respectful, and I'm really not asking for much, and I'm one of those people that you give me respect, I am going to give it back to you. I will go above and beyond to be respectful, but once you've crossed that line and have basically been like, no, I don't give a shit, like, okay, well, now you're not getting a nice neighbor, and I'm also going to be crazy, because crazy fights crazy, right? Okay, anyways, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed my little story. I love to hear about your neighbor, horror stories. I think it's really kind of funny. Like, I'm glad I can laugh about it now. And now the dog is gone, so everything is so much better. I'm the crazy neighbor. No one fucks with me. I have started like going outside and making TikToks outside, so I'm sure I look even crazier now. Oh, I will say this other story. So Barb has some guy, like I don't know if it's a nephew or somebody that like comes to her house. Well, they apparently don't let Barb have knives in the house anymore. And I think it's probably because of her Alzheimer's or dementia. We've seen the police cars over there a few times. And so this is me just piecing, different information that I have together. But yeah, I think she just gets kind of violent sometimes now. So I was outside making a TikTok, and her nephew comes home, and he like, I kind of hate it because when I first was here, I could not understand a single word he said, and now I can understand every word that he says. But he was like, "Hey, do you have a knife I can borrow?" And I'm like, what?" And he was like, "They won't let her have knives." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm trying not to be like a complete asshole bitch. So I find this knife that we don't use anymore, and I was like, that way in case he doesn't bring it back, like, I'm not gonna miss it. But I felt really awkward giving it to him, and most people are probably like, you should not have given him a knife. Whatever. So he was filleting fish out in the yard, so he needed a sharp knife. And then I saw him out there, like, in the grass filleting fish. So then he, like, comes back, brings the knife all cleaned up. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, not making TikToks out in the yard again. Like, I do not like this, that he thinks we're friends now. So also too, he was like, "Yeah, I saw a big black snake out in your yard the other day. It scared me." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Bert. He lives in the attic." And he was like, "He's still up there?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he couldn't believe that. But anyways, so then I thought that was the end of our conversation. Whatever. Well, Cliff didn't get home until really late that night, and so I'm sitting at home, and it's like 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, because it was like that really like twilight era like time frame. And I hear a knock on my door, and I'm like, "Oh my God, who is that?" And so I like barely open the door, and he's standing there. He brought us fried fish and hush puppies because as a thank you for letting him use the knife. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Saw you making this out in your grass, but okay. Cliff ate it and thought it was amazing. He thought they were the best hush puppies he's ever had. So, okay. I was like, you should tell him. But yeah, this is my life, guys. It's like I sometimes am just like, okay, is this real life? Yep, all right. But anyways, so please tell me your neighbor stories. Please like, subscribe, comment anything else that you want. I will say that next week I'm going to try something new out, and I have a little friend coming to help me with the cocktail tutorial. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thanks for spending some time with me, guys. I hope you had a little fun listening to my story. Hopefully my story made some of your neighbor horror stories not so horrible. But if you do have a bad one, like, tell me about it. I want to hear it. So anyways, have a great rest of your week. And cheers, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.